Alright, here we go. Welcome to a 3v3 on Ettelbruck Station. This game is going to be the Dream Team again, Angel of Death, 40K, and Kratz versus Generali J, Curiosity, and Oh Stop 91. Oh Stop. We're going to see mixed allies, 1 US, 2 US forces. Shock rifle already locked in, airborne, armor, and infantry for the US player, guard motors, terror, and lend-lease for Curiosity. Interesting mix. Assault, mechanized assault already fielded here by 40K, throwing some assault grenadiers on the field. Angel of Death going Luftwaffe already, right at the very beginning, and then Kratz going Assault Sport, Mobile Defense, Luftwaffe Supply with his, those are his options, going with an MG42 opening, double MG42 opening, in fact.
MG42 team is ready for action.
And these combat engineers, first engagement will encounter assault grenadiers here. At short range, assault grenadiers should be able to chase them down and force that retreat. There's not very much support around up here yet. Most allied forces heading middle or south. Meanwhile, Stern Pioneers grabbing the munitions while Folks Grenadiers try and throw up some cover down here. Lots of squads dedicated to capturing the central victory point right now, and an oddly early fuel cache right there too. That's probably not gonna help in this early engagement. Sprints into close range on these conscripts. I don't know if that was a good idea. Currently taking damage from conscripts here and combat engineers right there, so that didn't really accomplish much of anything. MG42 moving up to fire from this building, however, will suppress these two squads. Maybe at least delay the recapture of this victory point. Looks like the Axis are generally failing up here, and with barbed wire constructed on the entrance to the VP, the Allies should have no problem holding this line. Another squad of Assault Grenadiers on the field for 40K, who has gone with 2 Assault Grens and 1 squad of Grens, which on this map probably makes a pretty decent amount of sense. You want to have a decent quantity of short-range infantry. 3 might be a little bit overzealous. 2 I could probably see.
Grenadiers can now be summoned to the battlefield. Contact!
Riflemen force a retreat here in the south from those Folks Grenadiers. And a few Axis units are holding this line. The Soviets don't seem to have any intention of advancing beyond this, just positioning themselves in yellow cover, trying to punish anything that rounds this corner, which apparently these Assault Grenadiers plan to. Here in the south, the engagements seem to be going pretty well for the Axis. I'm surprised that nobody has even tried to take control of the train station, normally an extremely important structure on this map, and neither side has even, I don't think it's been garrisoned a single time. Tier 2 going up right here for Angel of Death, which is kind of weird placement. I don't think I agree with that. Usually you want a slightly more forward placement, like around this building or something. That's pretty far back. That's going to give him some pretty long retreats. But it's still better than retreating all the way back to base, certainly. Oh, that mine. Rounding this corner is obviously not going to happen. I think the Axis should just give up on the prospect of doing that and just try and hold the line and maybe find a way to destroy this wire and sneak in that way rather than trying to go all the way around and get gunned down by superior numbers. There's mortar on the field. Mortar should definitely help. Wow, off to a pretty good start already.
Pioneers ready for anything!
Riflemen move to take control of the munitions right there. MG42 moving to maybe take control of this train station. Otherwise, things are pretty quiet. Or MG34, actually. Things are pretty quiet. mostly a ceasefire here for the North victory point, since neither side wants to advance into the other person's defensive wall, which will of course make the mortar nice. Here in the middle, 2 squads of penal battalions are trying to advance. The machine gun is leaving the building, maybe? No, just had to reload. Gunner gets sniped by a flame crit, and it will leave the structure. Both squads suppressed, unsuppressed again. I think there's a pretty decent chance that this is going to get wiped. Does make a retreat, though. MG-42 protecting here will gun down anything that advances any further onto this strategic point, and 2 flamethrowers on these Pios will also help turn this engagement. There's the wipe. Molotov toss gets 1 crit right there. Meanwhile, here in the south, Volksgrenadiers trying to hold the line against Riflemen will succeed. Might even get wiped, actually, by these Assault Grenadiers. There they go. Assault Grenadiers moving to support here in the south should be able to get control of this point. And a mortar half-track is on the field for Ostap 91, so he is going to go Infantry Company, which on this map in a 3v3 is always a good call. Give him access to the priest later on. Although, it may actually be difficult to punish this battle group placement. Because it's actually pretty far back. You'd have to move a priest up pretty into a pretty dangerous engagement range to actually be able to hit that thing, I think. If he even knows where it is right now. So, that's one advantage of that placement. We'll see if I was wrong to call that placement too passive or not, I guess.
Ready for action.
I'm not really a 3v3 player, by the way, so you can pretty much take all of my advice with a grain of salt. When it comes to the larger team games, I don't necessarily know what works that well or what doesn't. Mortar half-track falls a little low, is going to have to pull back to safety. Axis are pretty much dominating on all fronts. And the Allies have been a little slow to tech. It's 8 minutes. I don't think I've seen... Oh, it's because there's a mortar half-track on the field. There's the utility car. A little late. Kind of weird to see a mortar half-track out before a utility car, though. Not sure what the deal is there. And Ostap's infantry preservation has just been horrible. He's down to only 1 squad of riflemen remaining. Curiosity has pretty much his entire army still alive, I think. Is that a heavy mortar? Yeah, it's a heavy mortar. So he's gone guard motor, and General EJ is just not spending his resources. 900 manpower in the bank at 8 minutes, which would explain why the Allies are struggling to take territory anywhere. I don't know, I don't say take what I say with a grain of salt that frequently. I say that maybe once every day. As opposed to like 15 times every day like I do with some other phrases that I enjoy. That grain of salt idiom is actually, that's a highly idiomatic phrase. If you were not already familiar with what that meant, like you weren't a native English speaker, you would probably have no idea what that means. What does it mean to take something with a grain of salt? The literal meaning of that is nonsensical in the context of Code 2, so I should probably try to avoid that phrase if at all possible. I don't even, if I actually think about it, I don't understand the origins of that, that figure of speech. Like... At what point did you take things with a grain of salt and that meant that you were like, yeah, but it's only... it's worth less because there's a grain of salt with it or something. I don't understand how that makes any sense. Now that I'm actually thinking about it, maybe I shouldn't use that phrase as much. Volksgrenadiers will be forced to retreat right there. Kuba wagon pulling back to safety. M20 is finally going to actually make an aggressive maneuver to try and hunt something down. Here in the north, it looks like the Axis are going to be able to hold their line. This overextension by the Allies has clearly failed horribly, resulting in a wipe right there. They do clear one team weapon with a Molotov, but that should be easy loss to replace. There's a mechanized assault group on the field, and an Su-76 apparently. Koopa Wagon did get hunted and destroyed by that M20 completely uncountered apparently. This Grenadier squad might consider a Panzerfaust. Or just stand there dying, I guess is also an option. And an Opel Blitz is on the field too.
We have lost a Granatwerfer squad.
Armor-piercing rounds! Armor-piercing rounds might kill that, maybe. Oh, no, not really. Its frontal armor isn't that bad, I guess. Maybe, right? Looks like it's gonna get away. Narrowly. Did the M20 die? Yes, M20 died after finally taking, I assume, a Panzerfaust and Panzerschreck fire here. Oh, alright, cheese. Thank you for explaining the origin of that phrase. Now I know that. That's kind of cool. I actually like that. I like that origin. That's a cool origin. I should like anything related to poison since I'm Romeo and I'm all about poisons and stuff. Because I kill myself with a bottle of poison. Penal Battalion forced retreat here in the south. Looks like Volksgrenadiers getting control of the riflemen down here. Victory points definitely trending in the Axis' favor. They're holding their half of the map quite well. Again, mostly because I think the Allies just are floating a lot and engaging terribly with what forces they do have on the field. T-70 might be able to turn things around a little bit. Mortar half-track has 0 kills, so it's performing about as well as it normally does. Needs some repairs. Pulling white phosphorus on that infantry support gun, apparently. Or maybe just blind. Frag grenade on the sandbags, destroys them. Rifleman will be able to win that engagement easily. Pretty significant sized Allied force making its way up here towards the north. Generale J looks like he was floating intentionally, by the way, so that he could spam just shocks instead of core Soviet units. Shocks and Su-76s, which is a composition I'm not particularly familiar with. Doesn't seem like it's working very well, though. Double high explosive barrage onto the building from maximum range. He probably could have moved up a little and fired from closer range to maximize his accuracy right there, but he seems to be getting the job done. Building's probably going to be destroyed. T-70 also applying a little bit of damage here. Machine gun will get out just in the nick of time. Meanwhile, here in the south, looks like Angel of Death is not successfully holding his line. And both actually the center and south victory points have fallen into Allied control, so Axis are now losing control of the game again. Points are going to start ticking against them. T-70 goes way too deep right here, though. One thing I do know about 3v3s is that diving like this is basically just suicide in a team game. There's gonna be something somewhere that's gonna punish this, and there it is. Rakettenwerfer kills it. That's the second vehicle I've seen overextend itself and die. Light vehicles seem like they have a very short and limited window of opportunity in big team games. Another thing I've noticed. They seem a lot more powerful in 1v1. T-70 really struggles to have a dramatic impact in a big team game. You have to use it more for its long-range vision utility, and try to find opportunities where, I don't know, they're just very hard to use. Light vehicles in general, I find quite hard to use. White phosphorus clears a mortar here in the middle, doing heavy damage to these flamethrower pyres too. I'm not sure if 40K has even noticed this happening. There she goes. There's the Stug E, mechanized assault, in full effect, making its way to the front lines. Meanwhile, the two Su-76s will actually provide a pretty decent counter to the Stug E, if it's left unsupported. LMG Grenadiers engaging against Penal Battalion here in the middle should be able to force that retreat. Mortar half-track is a little exposed and vulnerable right there. He's just leaving it there. AFK in front of Grenadiers, goes down to Panzerfaust fire. Su-76 is pulling back a little bit away from various threats in this area. Might be looking at Panzerschrecks at some point for 40K. It's pretty nice, by the way, to have Panzerschrecks on this map. You have a pretty reasonable chance of being able to get in range on tanks. Satchel charge, apparently. Using a satchel charge as a grenade, by the way, basically just does not work. Unless you're making the assumption that your opponent is extremely bad. Ooh, that mortar, on the other hand, wipes full squad. Wow, apparently we're going to be looking at some pretty hardcore bazooka spam here from the US player to try and counter the Stug, I guess. But he should probably spend his manpower. He's got 1,200 manpower at 17 minutes. As US forces is not a situation you really want to be in. I mean, floating, if you have a working core, if you have an effective army already, is one thing. Floating at 20 of 100 pop cap is another. And it looks like the Axis will successfully push the Allies back off the map again.
M7B1 self-propelled howitzer on station and ready for
Well, I guess that's true, Cruz. I guess it's worth making the attempt to see if it if your opponent really is that bad. You never know. Give it a shot.
Panzer here. We have a full complement.
Light artillery barrage is apparently being dropped in the victory point circle. There's nothing in there, but alright. Panzer IV needs to pull back for some repairs. I think, is that 3 SU? No, okay. 2 Su-76s into Su-85. Tank destroyer. Lining it up on this avenue and just kind of hoping the Axis are going to suicide a tank down that particular approach. Not going to work. They need to throw a unit into the capture circle. Get that under their control, if possible. Allies are just generally short on infantry, though. I think all shocks have been wiped. That makes things difficult. And he continues to make only shocks and no conscripts. It's nice to have low, cheap squads, by the way, for meat grinder maps like this, where you have no choice but to send a squad into an extremely dangerous area just to try to get it captured. This is probably one of the most meat grindery victory points in the game, other than maybe like the center VP on Eindhoven Country. Center VP on Road to Kharkov comes to mind. A lot of victory points in this game. Turning to mass graves. This North VP on Ettelbruck Station is one of many. And if you're on a map that has a meat grinder like that, you need cheap infantry to throw into that meat grinder. Throwing shock troops in here is just asking for trouble. So many infiltration grenades. They didn't even do anything. Tossed in the retreat path. Oh, that mortar! Oh, so many corpses on both sides. But losing assault grenadiers is cheaper than losing shock troops, so it's pretty much fine. Stug G fielded over here towards the various allied units. Pretty deep flank by that Panzerschreck blob could actually be a serious problem for this stuff. The Stug is going to move up to chase from behind. The Panzerschreck blob snipes the Su-76. Stug firing on these units from range. Most shots missing, fortunately, but it looks like there's a very real chance of all Allied assault guns being destroyed right here. Stug moving up from behind, and the Panzerschrecks will destroy the Su-85 plus Su-76s. Meanwhile, here in the south, doesn't look like the Allies are making any progress in any way. The rather pathetic forces that have been fielded are all getting pushed back. Still, even with massive losses, 645 fuel floating. Even with a priest on the field, 660 manpower floating. I meant manpower, not fuel. And Curiosity has not 1,000 manpower. Generali J spends all of his manpower on lone squads of shock troops that he grinds into meat here on the North VP, so no wonder the Axis are winning.
Shock troops awaiting deployment. Incendiary artillery.
And there goes one of the Allies.
At our disposal.
Priest wipes a Grenadier squad, that's something, I guess. Faust on this T-34 destroys its engine, but it will be fully repaired soon. It's a decent amount of protection from Allied infantry. 40 Cake taking control of the North VP. Panzerschreck Blob taking control of the center VP, and the game will start taking back in the Axis favor again. Allies show no signs of being able to get this game back under their control. Apparently the Volksgrenadier Blob is going to retreat from the Bazooka Blob. And something's being dropped right there. I think. I have no idea what that was. I guess that was fake smoke from the Major. Alright, I guess. T-34 firing. No anti-tank here in the south. T-34 actually has a brief window where maybe he'll be able to accomplish something down here. There are more oversold in production. Angel of Death has 210 fuel even after building all 3 tech structures, so King Tiger's probably well on its way. 40 Cake is up to 2 Stug E's and Stug G, and a mortar or no, the 250, not a mortar half-track. And Kratz up to 3 Opals, 2 Panzer IVs, and a Tiger, so he has quite the mechanized force. Never mind, his Opal down there just died to this overextending T-34, which he has now handed over to the enemy. And there it is, the Allies know that they cannot possibly recover this game, and they will surrender. GG. I think that the biggest thing the Allies need to work on is resource float. I cannot even fathom why a US player would have 1,000 manpower floating at almost all points of this game. Spend your resources, and you'll do a lot better. It shouldn't be that hard either to just keep your float down, generally. So GG, Axis wins.